So, the election happened. Donald Trump won. He crushed Hillary Clinton into the dirt. Nationalism is on the march across the entire Western world, and the forces of globalism are retreating in disarray. But obviously, it's not over. In the wake of Donald Trump's victory, the mainstream media is scrambling to find a narrative to explain away this new reality. They need an explanation, one in which they're not to blame, in which their narrative still makes some kind of sense, and in which they're the good guys. And it looks like in a first attempt they've found one, and it's what they're calling fake news. What is fake news? Well, it was formulated by a left-wing college professor and circulated around various academics and journalists on the left. Its thesis is that essentially online news sources in particular are no longer reliable because they've been somehow infiltrated by these fake news websites that are not reliable or trustworthy, like the regular mainstream media. Of course, this list is entirely, or almost entirely, made up of the right-wing websites that helped Donald Trump to win the presidency. And this narrative has been taken up wholesale by the likes of the New York Times, the Washington Post, and lots of the other mainstream media giants. They're claiming that fake news is how Donald Trump won the election. In this slightly upside down narrative, all that fake news is essentially fake news. It's news that's made up, that's false, that isn't true. And the narrative goes that this fake news was used to trick ordinary people into voting for the Republicans. They can't possibly have made a balanced, self-interested, rational decision. They can't have looked at Hillary Clinton, her corruption, her dishonesty, and decided that they were going to go with Donald Trump. No, they had to have been tricked. Now, obviously they don't really have any objective proof for this narrative, but what they're saying is that this fake news needs to be purged from all the vectors of information and news that ordinary people have access to. And to that end, people like Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook, among others, are being encouraged to purge this news, to stop accepting advertising from these sites and simply not to trust them, or even to allow their news pieces to appear on Facebook. And of course, on the list of fake news is the likes of Zero Hedge, InfoWars, and the massive conservative news website Breitbart, all of which were, in their own way, instrumental in winning the presidency for Donald Trump. So, of course, they are the primary targets of these people spreading this false news, this fake news narrative, because they want these people shut down. They never want another election in which their mainstream narrative can be challenged or undermined by people outside of their control. Of course, the narrative that the mainstream media is pushing is actually an inversion of the truth. They're the ones who, over the last year and a half of this election cycle, have been pushing lie after lie after lie in an attempt to stop Donald Trump from being elected, and to push and latterly to pull Hillary Clinton over the finish line victorious. They have slandered, they've planted entirely false stories, they've colluded with the Democratic Party, they've essentially broken every single code or basic principle of journalistic ethics. The mainstream media is so scared of losing its hold on the popular imagination, on the minds of millions of ordinary people across the Western world, that it's reached a point where it will do or say anything to save itself. They've been losing credibility and readership to staggering degrees over the last year, and they will do anything to save themselves. This story, this entire narrative of fake news, is itself an example of fake news. It's simply not true. The news sources they're attacking and slandering are, on the whole, fairly reliable. Certainly no more unreliable than many left-wing websites, and in fact no more unreliable than the likes of the New York Times. So what do we do from here? These people will not play fair. And it looks like it's going to be up to these alternative sources of news to fight this narrative tooth and nail. To essentially say, no, you're not the mainstream media anymore. You don't have any power over us. You don't tell us what we're going to do and what we're going to say. We tell the people. We don't care what you have to say. We have to say to leftists that they're ad hominems and attempt to discredit the news based on the source from which it comes. Their demand that we only accept trusted, that is, corporate-controlled left-wing news as a source of credible information is simply not acceptable. We have to say, no, we're in charge now, not you.